Hi, I'm Tava Singer with CaliQuiltCo.com, and we are just launching our brand new Block of the Month program. Our Block of the Month program does not connect month to month. It's going to be different every month, and this is September 2021. And so let's get started. When you open this up, it's going to come with very basic instructions, which is why we're doing this tutorial. Put this bag out of the way. But pre-cut fabric, so you're ready to sit down and start sewing at your machine right away. Pre-cut fabric, basic simple instructions. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take and separate my strips. You're going to have 2.5 of these dark blue strips. You're going to have half of this medium blue, and then you'll have 3 full strips of this off-white. This is actually a thatched from Moda. And so I'm going to start, I'm not even going to iron. I'll start with a full strip though. I'm not going to iron or do any pressing or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and start. I do want to make sure I have the correct side. This is like a white on white. Load it into my machine. And I want to have and maintain a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So part of our Block of the Month program is to learn and build skills. And so one of those is, especially when you're new to quilting, is maintaining a 1/4 inch seam allowance. When we're making clothes, or if we're sewing, you know, a set of curtains for our house, with all of that, we usually have much larger seam allowances, and so it seems really small to go to a 1/4 inch. So this is something we definitely want to practice and maintain. You could pin this, but with narrow strips like this, I find that that's not needed. Now that that's done, I'm going to actually, just for the magic of YouTube and trying to go faster, I'm going to put all of these to the side, and I'm going to come over and show you how to press. So come on over here with me with the camera, please.
So I got stuck there. Let me come over.
Yeah, all the way.
The magic of not editing videos.
Okay, so traditionally in quilting, we press to the dark side, and we want to press over one way because that is what gives us the strongest seam, and that's very, very important when we're quilting. We want strong seams. However, I want to not press over to the dark side in this. I want to press open, and it's because I like the look on this particular block. This one's called Marble Run, and I like the way this geometric block looks when I press open. I actually made my first one not, I just going over to pressing to the dark side, and I didn't like that look. And so this is one that I really think it makes a nice big difference. And so pressing skills here, you can see I'm not trying to like push and iron. I'm not getting my fabric really wet with a bunch of steam. I am actually just using my iron dry. You can have a little bit of steam, but I don't want to get my fabric wet and let it distort. And then I kind of just run along with my finger ahead of time just to smooth it out. Make sure I'm opening up this seam and press down. Now I'm just kind of letting the weight of the iron press this seam nice and open. Now that that's done, I'll flip it over and I'll give it another really good press. And I'm not trying to go side to side so much because I don't want to distort this center line, this seam. I want to just press it nice and flat for cutting. So now we're going to come back over here.
Sorry, I got stuck on the cord.
We'll eventually need to just get 2 cameras so we can have one right over the iron. Okay, so now this is another one of our skills that we are building, is learning how to trim our blocks down. And so with this, when you sew it all together, it's too big. We need to cut it into our blocks. We also need to trim it down. And so we're going to have Vicki here, and she's going to be teaching, you know, for in-store how to be able to do this without using any specialty rulers. But this is the Stripology ruler. This is the middle size. and I love them all. I think all three sizes are important to own, but I like this size because it's really nice for my sewing table here. I also love having the big, huge one, but that one's kind of awkward for this project. So for this is Stripology Squared, and this is the one I prefer for this project. But now what I need to do is trim these down to 3-inch squares. And so what I like to do is I come over here to my mat and I will trim off my selvage. And then I want to roughly cut out 12-inch pieces. And then I'll have one little extra one. And so by doing this now, I'm actually going to start by doing the vertical part. And so I can use any line on my mat. There's not that one is the magic one. I'm just going to make sure that I have the same at the bottom and the top. And I want to make sure that this seam is lined up as perfectly as it can. And this is part of why I like to press these seams open for this part here, because I felt like I didn't have as much control doing it the other way. And now with this, I want to trim this down to 3 inches total. So on my Stripology ruler, I'm going to look for my 1.5 mark, and I'm going to find that, and I'm going to line it up right down my seam. So my 1.5 is lined up right on that seam, and now I'm going to cut at 0 and 3. Now that that's cut, I can discard that, and now I will line this up just over my 0 line, put my Stripology ruler back down, and now I'm lining up the 0 on my Stripology ruler with the 0 on my mat, making sure that this is all nice and straight. And now this is the part where Stripology really saves you time, because I can cut all of these without having to keep moving my ruler. Slide that out of the way, my discards, and now I have these perfect little 3-inch squares. I'll do my next piece. I can just take any line, I just need to make sure it's the same at the top and the bottom. Line up my Stripology ruler, I find my 1.5 line. Line that up, and now that's 1.5, so I'm going to cut at 0 and then 3. Discard. Isn't that so fast and fun? I love these rulers.
If you're not familiar with what a Stripology ruler is, there's little slots in the plastic groove at every 1/2 inch. So Tava's just finding the 0, the 3,
6,
and 9 groove, and 12.
9, and 12. And so I'm able to do lots of cuts, and they're dead accurate. Like, they're so precise and perfect. I don't have to worry about my ruler moving. These are absolutely perfect little 3-inch blocks every time I do this. Show you again. So I'm lining it up. Now I find my 1.5. I put it down on that seam. And now I cut at 0 and 3. Discard. So you can do this with any ruler. You do not have to have a Stripology ruler. I'm wanting to show some of these things in tutorials because I talk about these rulers all the time and how much I love them, but then when I don't use them in tutorials, we don't even necessarily think to pick them up and use them at home. And so that's why I want to start showing you tutorials using these Stripology rulers, because I love them. I love that I can get absolutely accurate, perfect cuts every single time. And you see how fast this is because I'm not moving my ruler. I'm not having to line anything back up. I just move my blade and then they all turn out so perfect. I love that. And so these Stripology rulers are wonderful. It's a really good investment. I'm going to leave this other one to the side because for the magic of YouTube, boom, I have all of these ones ready to show you. So that is what you are going to be doing as far as pressing So sewing your strips together, pressing, trimming your blocks down, and then it's time to line them up. So you're gonna go 6 blocks across, 6 blocks down, and you're just going to keep alternating them. Now we have a few of them, I think we end up with like 5 or 6 of these, that have the medium blue, and so you can just mix those in however you like. Oops, these ones didn't get trimmed down. Uh-oh. What do I have here? That was not good.
Not the magic of YouTube.
Not the magic of YouTube. Whew. How do I have a bunch of them not trimmed down? Well, we'll start with these. The ones that I just did. Are these not trimmed down at all? Let me look. 3 and 3. Okay. Don't know what I did there. That's what I get when I'm trying to brush stuff and I'm hungry, huh? So now I'm just going to be placing these however I like, and however you like, that's what you're going to do as well. And part of it is you want to be thinking about this. If this was a marble run, how's it going to go? And we just keep alternating. So like my marble could be going down that way. You could then come over this way. Force it down over there. This is weird to try to do upside down. I hope it's making sense. Do we like that? I'm not sure I like that. Any opinion, Joe?
Love it. It's the best thing I've ever seen.
Okay, then I should be afraid. Okay, so I'm going to keep lining these up down, 6 across and 6 down. And now once I have that done, I do want to start using my pins, and I do want to pin them all in place to be able to sew them together. So in this case, I would leave them all out right next to me, and I would just fold this over on top, pin. Well, I'm not going to actually pin this part either. And now I can make sure that this is still the correct way I want it to be. Put this right over. Nothing like pressure when you're trying to do it and get it right.
So if you were going to pin.
If I were going to pin, I'm actually going to pin on the next step, not here yet. I sell a ton of pins, and I love pins. I have so many different kinds of pins, but some things just don't need pins in my book. And a little 3-inch square, I can keep that together. I don't need to pin that so much. Okay, so you want to just always make sure that you keep coming back. When in doubt, always check. Don't sew and hope that it'll turn out. When in doubt, always stop and check.
Or invest in a seam ripper.
Oh, did that sew? Oh, it did. So as you can see, the actual construction goes pretty quick. The whole point of our Block of the Month program, the way we're doing it, is to do things different and to give you something new to think about each month. And also, you're not signed up for doing 10 months of blue and off-white. So it's one of those things, we're going to use different fabric and different patterns. The blocks will end up being different sizes. This block will finish at 15.5 by 15.5 inch square. And if you want to turn this block into a whole quilt, you can do that. So we sell these blocks that are pre-cut with the instructions for $5, but don't buy 20 of these to be able to turn it into a quilt, because we'll sell you a kit to be able to cut your own strips and make it for less than that. So definitely call the shop, 916-853-5600 or CaliQuiltCo.com, and you can purchase a kit to be able to make this for cheaper. I believe it's like $64.95 for the kit to make the whole 20 blocks instead of purchasing 20 of these. So now the other skill that you're going to learn with this is going to be nesting seams. So let me sew this next row together. Can you think of any questions, Joe? Behind the camera tonight, I have my husband and business partner, Joe,
Hello.
and he is learning how to sew. And so it's always a really good thing to get his perspective on stuff to see if he feels like if I left any holes. Oop, this one hasn't been trimmed.
No, I think seems pretty cut and dry so far.
This one hasn't been trimmed either. How did I end up with so many that weren't trimmed? That's bad.
I guess the key to
Apparently it
watch,
wasn't magic.
the key is to make sure you do what Tava says, do as she says, not as she does,
Totally.
and make sure she trims.
Make sure I trim. But I love this in that you get to trim your blocks down. I love it when you get to trim blocks down because then you have that ability to make them totally accurate and precise.
And what's cool about this block that it's only $5 is if you really like it, but you want to do, let's say, a Christmas one,
Yep.
and you want red and greens, for example, or you want to add red, green, and white for Christmas, try this on the $5 one because it's only $5 and you're getting a good taste of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do your next one, pick the colors you want, and you'll be able to do the whole quilt and you'll know what you're doing from the beginning.
Absolutely. Excellent point. Excellent point. Okay, so now that I have these two strips done, we're going to come back to the iron and I'm going to show you nested seams. Come on over. All right, we're back. So I have my 2 rows that I just finished, and now we want to learn and talk about what nested seams are. And so what that is we're going to iron one of these rows this way to this side. This row is going to come over this way, and then we will nest them together. So my first seams of my blocks were pressed open, and now I'm going to press everything to your right, my left. And now that that has been pressed, everything going to your right, my left, I'll just iron it down from the top one more time. Just because flat fabric is so much easier to work with. And now with this other row, I'm going to press everything to your left, my right. So we'll start over here.
And the reason for this, when you put them together, so that they're not a bulky seam.
Yes, this is how we're going to make nested seams. And nested seams are like a little seam sandwich. Does that make it sound all nice? We will see. Okay, so with these seams here, where my blocks are joined going this way to your left, these ones here going to your right, when I flip this over, and I start in the middle, you always start in the middle and work your way out. That way, if you have a discrepancy, you can make it equal on both sides. But we shouldn't, because we're building skills. So this is going to be good. So these should be totally perfect. We will see. Okay, so now with this, I can look, and I want to make sure that my seams here, are you zoomed in here, Joe? This part I want really zoomed.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So this is where my seams are going to meet, and I want them to actually kind of lock onto each other, which they do. They snug right up. And so now, this is when, if you have the little purple fork pins that I always talk about, you can use one fork pin and pin both of those seams. Otherwise, you can double pin it like I did, or single pin. And now I'm going to also check this seam and this seam. I want to lock them together. I lock them and make sure that they nest. And then I like to double pin these, and I'll tell you why. When I don't double pin them and I go to sew, this will always end up on the bottom, and this will always get smushed over and jammed over here. So the whole rest of the block gets pressed to this side, except for the seam, when it's all wonky like this. Now, there is no quilt police. I'm definitely not going to even say boo, okay? But there is no quilt police unless you're at the state fair. There is no quilt police that's going to be like, hey, 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 that wasn't perfect. No one's going to care. But it's one of those things that when you're trying to build your skills and you're doing a small project, put a lot of effort into it to really perfect that and bring about, you know, upgrading your skills and what you're able to do. Now this one, look what I did. Now I see my faulty way. this one wasn't trimmed. And so when I went to go sew this together, look at this. You should zoom in and see this. When I'm going in to sew this one together, I still cannot believe I did this. I should have just started the whole thing start to finish. I was trying to make it shorter for you guys. I'm sorry. But now when I go to nest this seam, I can nest this seam perfect as long as you like flappy parts on your quilt. Okay? Or tuck. That's terrible. I'm not going to allow that. So now I'm going to have to go rip out this seam, trim that block down, and sew it. Which not a big deal. Let's see if we go this way. These ones I seem to get right. Man. Okay, yeah, definitely. Bad teacher moments, right? Super bad. I know Joe's doing this to me big time. I know. Well, it's okay. I'm sure my face is like 10 shades of red right now too, but that's okay. You know what? These are really, really good teachable moments. My background's classical violin, so like I want everything to be perfect, total perfection, perfection and wonderful all the time, but that's just not reality. So you're gonna see this. But it's also a really good thing too, because these kinds of things happen to me too. If it happens to you, laugh about it. Find the moment, like bad words come flying out of here sometimes too. But instead of choosing that or going straight to that or straight to anger, just laugh and be like, what did I get to learn today? And so one of the things I learned today is next time I'm going to start to finish through my whole block. I was just trying to keep this short and sweet because I know a lot of you try to watch our videos while you're making dinner. Or you're on your lunch break at work. Okay, so now this one here is also going to nest because this was properly trimmed down. So this will nest, and so let me finish this part. I just want to show you that once I finish pinning these and I sew this, I'm going to stop here because I am going to have to rip that out because that just is not going to fly. I do want to show you though how cool this all looks because you end up with totally perfect points. And what that means is when you go to open this up, all my seams are going to line up just totally perfect. Okay, we'll come back over here for a minute. And now I'm going to sew this seam, at least as far as I can. And I will back tack here right at the end of this because I'm going to put a lot of strain on this seam. Well, apparently a lot more than I expected, is I'm going to let my machine eat it. So you can see when I get to this, I actually pull out both of those pins at the same time. I just like that it holds my seams down totally flat the way I want them to be. And I'm going to stop right there because then I get down to my messed up part that I need to go back and fix later. But this is the part I want to show you with nested seams. When I go to open this up, I finger press this, you can see as my blocks are joined that these line up perfectly each time. Can you see that?
Yes.
Are you zoomed in enough? Okay. And so when you finish this and you have all 36 of your little squares that have been trimmed down to 3 inches each, when you have them all trimmed and all lined up, put together, this is the finished block that you're going to have for Marble Run. This is a 15.5-inch square block that you finish up. This is a $5 project. We have them available while supplies last. When they are out, we will hopefully just write out cutting instruction in case you're watching this at a later date. But we have a new block of the month each month that releases on the 1st of the month. So October 1st, November 1st, December 1st. And then we will always, the first Monday of each month, have a sewing day in the shop that you can come in for $15. That includes an all-day sit and sew as well as your $5 block. And then we have the talented Vicki Carter here, and she will sew through the block and help you if you have any questions. So if you're a new quilter, or if you're starting out, or if you just want to improve your skills, she has such a range and depth of knowledge that you can get. So even if you're an experienced quilter and you want to come learn more, come hang out with Vicki and sew your block up that day. It is amazing what I learn every time I hear her. Plus, she just is so encouraging and wonderful. So we have a great shop here that we'd love to come share. So come in, Cali Quilt Co. We're in the Sacramento area of Rancho Cordova, California. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.